Cravat, early. The cravat is a neckband, the forerunner of the modern tailored necktie and bow tie, originating from a style worn by members of the 17th century military unit known as the cravats. The modern British cravat is called an ascot in American English. From the end of the 16th century, the term band applied to any long strip neckcloth that was not a ruff. The ruff, a starched pleated white linen strip, originated earlier in the 16th century as a neckcloth, readily changeable to minimize the soiling of a doublet, as a bib or as a napkin. A band could be either a plain attached shirt collar or a detachable falling band that draped over the doublet collar. It is possible that initially cravats were worn to hide soil on shirts. History. According to 1828 Encyclopedic, the art of tying the cravat demonstrated in 16 lessons. The Romans were the first to wear knotted kerchiefs around their necks, but the modern version of the cravat, French la cravate, originated in the 1660s. During the reign of Louis XIV of France, Croatian mercenaries were enlisted in 1660, wearing a necktie called a tour de cou. The traditional Croat military kit aroused Parisian curiosity about the unusual, picturesque scarves distinctively knotted at the Croats' necks. In 1660, a regiment of Croats arrived in France. A part of their singular costume excited the greatest admiration and was immediately and generally imitated. This was a tour de cou made for the private soldiers of common lace, and of muslin or silk for the officers. The ends were arranged en rosette or ornamented with a button or tuft, which hung gracefully on the breast. This new arrangement, which confined the troth but very slightly, was at first termed a cravate, since corrupted to cravat. The cravats of the officers and of people of rank were extremely fine, and the ends were embroidered or trimmed with broad lace. Those for the lower classes were subsequently made of cloth or cotton, or at the best of black taffeta plaited, which was tied round the neck by two small strings. Often the Dubrovnik poet Ivan Gundulic is credited with the invention of the cravat, due to a portrait hanging in the rector's palace, Dubrovnik. The scholar depicted in the painting looks very much like the frontispiece to his Osman published in 1844. However, considering the hairstyle, this portrait is more probably a later portrait of his namesake Jivo, Ivan Žižkov Gundulic, also a Dubrovnik poet. In their honor, Croatia celebrates Cravat Day on October the 18th. On returning to England from exile in 1660, Charles II imported with him the latest new word in fashion. A cravat is another kind of adornment for the neck, being nothing else but a long towel put about the collar, and so tied before with a bow knot. This is the original of all such wearings, but now by the art of the inventions and the seamsters, there is so many new ways of making them, that it would be a task to name, much more to describe them. During the wars of Louis XIV of 1699 to 1697, except for court, the flowing cravat was replaced with the more current and equally military Steinkirk, named after the Battle of Steenkerk in 1692. The Steinkirk was a long, narrow, plain or lightly trimmed neckcloth worn with military dress, wrapped once about the neck in a loose knot, with the lace of fringed ends twisted together and tucked out of the way into a buttonhole, either of the coat or the waistcoat. It was designed to be worn in a deliberate disarray. The fashion apparently began after the troops at the Battle of Steenkerk had no time to tie their cravats properly before going into action. The Steinkirk was popular with men and women until the 1720s. Colley Cibber's play, The Careless Husband from 1704, had a famous Steinkirk scene. The macaronis reintroduced the flowing cravat in the 1770s, and the manner of a man's knotting became indicative of his taste and style, to the extent that after the Battle of Waterloo in 1815, the cravat began to be referred to as a tie.